This is Join Us in France, episode 368. 368. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we talk about France. Great places to visit in France, French culture, history, gastronomy, and news related to travel during the pandemic. Today, I bring you a conversation with Elyse Riven about how to best enjoy the Christmas season in Paris. We'll talk about the best areas of Paris to visit, the best streets for Christmas shopping in Paris, Christmas markets in Paris, Christmas concerts in Paris, where to attend Christmas Mass in Paris, Christmas meals in Paris, and what you can expect and why you need to reserve, where to see Christmas decorations in Paris, and the museums and venues that are open on Christmas Day. Christmas spirit all the way. The French expression of the week is Il me court sur le haricot. Is he really running on your bean? If you like what we do here at Join Us in France, remember this. To buy one of my products or services, go to joinusinfrance.com/boutique. At the boutique, you'll find my cookbook, Join Us at the Table, with some lovely French winter recipes, my Paris tours on the Voice Map app, and if you need a last-minute gift for someone who loves France, get them tour codes and put a bug in their ear that there's a trip to France in their near future. It will make them happy. What you cannot get at the boutique is my itinerary planning service because that's on vacation until December 26. Voila, you know everything. Follow Addicted to France on Instagram to see my photos of Christmas in Paris. I will post them this week. Le Marais, the Latin Quarter, obviously, kind of pretty much the first...
The heart of the tourist part of Paris.
Right, the 1st through the 8th arrondissement.
Right.
Then you are going to have Christmas things everywhere. Like, it would be impossible for you not to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's there. It's right there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to plan anything. You don't have to... Like, if you take my voice map tours, you will run into a lot of these things because obviously I send you there because it's interesting. These are nice.
And it's where the tourists go. It's where the heart of the commercial part of Paris is too.
Right. That's just... Those are the areas. So don't sweat it. If you just want to go do my voice map tours, or if you just want to go walk around the 1st through the 8th arrondissement, you're going to see a lot of this stuff. But if you want a few details, keep listening because we have a few streets that I've noticed and that Elyse has noticed are interesting and have kind of stand out a little bit. One place that I was shocked was la Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, which changes to Rue Saint-Honoré a little further. It's between the Élysée Palace and Place Colette. This street is parallel to Rue de Rivoli. And La Seine, the Seine River. And it is the high fashion area of Paris.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, visitors who don't really know Paris very well might think that all that stuff is on the Champs-Élysées. It's not that simple. It's also on Rue du Boulevard Saint-Honoré, Rue Saint-Honoré. There's a bunch of, like, every store there is famous for clothing,
high
shoes,
brands.
Very expensive brands that...
Actually, it's classier and more upscale than the Champs-Élysées.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's where it's small boutiques, even if they're famous, but it's not big stores, you know. It's not very big stores at all.
It's small boutiques where you'll drop a few thousand very quickly.
You have ready-made Dior and things like that, you know. To add, because most people, of course, really won't do this, but if you want to do haute couture, which means you want to spend not 1,000, but maybe 10,000. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
You go to Rue Montaigne.
Right.
Yeah. It's also in the 8th.
Yeah. Right. So there are a lot of different price points. But my sister, I was there with my sister, who is a fashionista, unlike me, who completely could not care less about this. And I was shocked how she recognized all of these brands. And so as we walked along, she was like, oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. I'm like, who are these people? And she's like, oh, they're super famous, super wonderful for glasses. They make custom glasses. I'm like, really? People buy custom glasses? Yes, they do. And then a little further, they are famous for super comfortable shoes that, are thousands. I mean, they look like sneakers, honestly. They're sneakers, okay? But they're really expensive.
Of course. and
on and on. Like, there are boutiques that are famous for their gloves, boutiques that are famous for their sweaters.
There's a place that is famous for making custom-made perfume.
Right. It's everywhere. Now, if you're into that kind of lifestyle, you will recognize all of these brands. If you're like me and you couldn't care less, then you'll walk around going, wow, that's expensive. And wow, that's pretty. They have a lot of pretty stuff.
Yes.
Very pretty stuff, I must admit. Not stuff that I care about, but it's really, really beautiful, and it's high end. And like you said, Rue Montaigne is even higher. It's even higher.
I think you have to have a certain look about you to. I'm half joking, but to walk down the street at Rue Montaigne, you just have to go. Oh, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
Okay. Then, of course, Champs-Élysées, especially the top part.
Yeah.
Of the Champs-Élysées has a lot of big stores, but there it's bigger stores. It's not small boutiques. Yeah, it's a bit, the feel is a bit different. It's, how would you characterize it?
Well, I would say it's less exclusive. That's the way I would describe it. You have good high-end brands, but not quite as, the thing about Rue Saint-Honoré is that it's famous brands, but also you have custom stores, and they're boutiques. These are not big places. It doesn't mean you can't go in and walk around and look at everything, but there's a place that makes, they really make their underwear there that's very, very famous. I mean, these are places, whereas the Champs-Élysées, it's the high end of more mass production kind of things. Let's put it that way.
Right. That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
And you can definitely walk in there I walked in there with my LL Bean raincoat, and nobody cares. Like, it's fine. You don't have to dress up to go there or whatever, but it is high end. And if you don't know these brands, it won't mean anything to you. You'll just walk by a bunch of stores, well decorated stores that have a lot of very good looking attendants. They're all good looking, man. If you're not a good looking person, you cannot work in one of those stores.
Good looking, and usually dressed in black.
Yes, dressed in black, pointy shoes, very fitted, everything.
And slim.
Slim, of course. So yeah, that's just the look that they project, and that's just how it is, and it's fine. And if you're not like that, which is me, it's fine too. You can walk in.
You can walk in.
Yeah.
Well, they're used to it. I mean, they really are used to the idea that people come from other places. A lot of the business in these places really is tourist business.
Yeah.
So that they don't worry about what you look like. They want to know how much you're going to spend.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and it was very funny because when we walked in, so again, I was with my sister, and my sister, she kind of introduced us to these people. So she would walk in first because she was in such a hurry to go places. She ran there, and we stopped for a coffee, and she ran right there to see those shoes that she wanted. Shoes, and then she spent a good half hour considering, what she wanted. She had seen them online, of course. She knew all about the brand before she showed up, because this is what she does. And but she had, when we walked in, she introduced us, and the guy was very polite to us and all. It's really funny. It's like a ritual.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It actually is.
It's very interesting. Anyway, so that's Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, between the Champs-Élysées and Rue Place Colette.
Yes.
And Place Colette, by the way, is where people dance all the time. The dance clubs bring music, and on a day when the weather is good, especially on the weekends, you will have year-round people dancing. So 1 week they will do the tango, 1 week they will do the cha-cha, one day. So they put on that sort of music, and they invite clubs where they've taught that specific step to come in, and then anybody can join. It's really pleasant, Place Colette. Rue de Rivoli is just parallel to Boulevard Saint-Honoré, and it's highly decorated, but it's not as highbrow.
Oh, no, not at all.
Rue de Rivoli is more like the Target kind of shopper.
No, I actually not agree with you.
Target?
It's higher than Target.
Yeah, maybe.
The thing about Rue de Rivoli is that it's very long.
Yes.
And it winds up going into the Marais.
Yeah.
And the part of it that starts where the Louvre is.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little part that's very touristy. Of course, you have all the little souvenir shops and everything.
Yeah.
But it actually has some very interesting sort of antique art gallery type places. But then the part that's the massive part with the stores it's not Target level. Sorry for those. I mean, I buy things when I go back to the States in Target. But the mass of the street is middle class shopping.
Yeah.
It's chains that are, it's usually chain stores that are well known in Paris. Some of them export to other places as well. But it's definitely middle to upper middle class. It depends on which store, because it's very mixed, and it's very busy because it's been known forever and ever as being a massive shopping area.
Right. And Rue de Rivoli, please do not step on the street without looking both ways. There are silent bicycles that are out to kill you.
And trottinette.
It's trottinette. There's now electric cars everywhere. You can't hear them. Look before you step onto the street, please. I saw people getting run over again this time. Don't... Look both ways.
And the Rue de Rivoli actually takes you to where the Samaritan is, and the bazaar of the Hôtel de Ville of Paris.
Yeah.
So that's two of the department stores that are not as famous for being high end as the ones that are behind the opera, but they're very, very good and very popular.
Right, and they're excellent.
They're excellent.
It's great for shopping.
It's great for shopping.
Yeah. Champs-Élysées, we mentioned already. Rue du Bac is interesting. Rue du Bac is interesting. So if you're facing the Orsay Museum, the street just to your left, to the left of the Orsay Museum is called Rue du Bac.
And it's perpendicular. It runs from the river down, actually.
Well, up or down?
Up, down. Voilà.
And that street is famous for les antiquaires.
Les antiquaires.
Les antiquaires, so that's what? Antique stores.
Antique stores. And some galleries.
Some high-end stores. Right. We went there because there was a store where they make custom humidors. Mm. Yeah, so if you want a custom humidor, that's where you go. And that's where my brother-in-law took us. So they do high-end items of all sorts. And it's kind of a longish street.
Yeah.
Not as long as Rivoli, but it's kind of a longish street. And it ends with Le Bon Marché.
Which is definitely not Bon Marché.
No, not Bon Marché at all.
Very, very, very high end.
Right. And Bon Marché had Christmas decorations already up, but they were very subdued. Nothing garish.
This is the 7th arrondissement.
Right.
We are not garish.
Right. This is the arrondissement where you'll pay €6 for a Diet Coke and €7 for a glass of wine, which is really annoying to me because,
You're in the 7th, darling.
Yes.
There you are.
And where, at Le Bon Marché, it was like cream and silver and gold type of decorations, no green, no red.
Yes.
Very...
Well, I would say that in general, in Paris, a lot of the decorations tend to be more subdued than certainly you would find in the United States.
Right.
They're not
as flashy.
They're not as flashy.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful, but it's much more of the kind of cream and white and maybe pale blue and things like that. Right.
And these are stores that hire designers to do their windows. I mean, this is not like mom and pop.
Right.
These people didn't grow up to people think that in Paris, it must be that they're naturally good at making everything beautiful. No, it's not natural. They hire people who go to school.
Professionals, right.
Yeah, professionals. They hire people to go to school to learn how to make beautiful designs and beautiful window shopping and things like that. It's not by accident.
It's actually a profession.
It's a profession, and they pay these people very well.
And just to add to the Rue du Bac, once you get closer to Beaumarchais, you have some very beautiful boutique clothing stores as well.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's not as famous, but it's very nice.
So right across from Le Bon Marché, you have this church that I didn't know anything about, but we went because my brother-in-law had heard about it and it was famous. His mother sent him to go buy medallions. These are medallions that can heal you, apparently. And they're cheapo looking, really little things. But that church has a lot of fervor to it. Like
yes.
There were a lot of nuns. It was packed. I was really surprised.
It's actually a small pilgrimage stop. It's not a stop on the road to Compostelle, but it has an aura about it that's a little bit like Lourdes.
That's a good description. Right. It's a bit the Lourdes of Paris.
Right, exactly.
Right, and it's l'Église de la Rue du Bac. It must have another name. I'll have to look it up.
It has another name, and I unfortunately don't remember it off the top of my head.
But it's at the very top of Rue du Bac, right across from Le Bon Marché. It's easy to find. Another area in Paris that is very interesting for Christmas is the Galerie Lafayette and Printemps.
Yes.
Haussmann, Rue Haussmann, Boulevard Haussmann. Okay. The Printemps is, you look out, you have to look at the the windows outside of the store. They are gorgeous. They are mechanized. Now, that was not on yet. That starts around the 20th of November. Okay. And I think they leave it up till January.
They usually leave it up, I think, till the 1st or 2nd of January.
Right. Maybe a little longer. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I think,
right.
But it for those people who have ever been, or to be honest, I don't even know if it still exists, but I would assume to New York's Macy's, which was famous for centuries. I mean, for decades and decades for being famous for its magnificent automated decorations and windows filled with things. This is the equivalent.
Yeah, that's Printemps.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And then you have the Galerie Lafayette, where it's the central Christmas tree. That's the whole height of the store. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Under the magnificent dome.
Right. That area is, that's Christmas in Paris. And there's a certain Christmas frenzy to it.
Yes.
So you will have lots and lots of people, like crowds, huge people pressed around you and stuff like that.
Just as a warning, having done this many times before in Paris, this is where you have to be very careful of pickpockets.
Yeah.
Really, really be careful.
Yeah, definitely. And then not very far from Haussmann and Printemps, you have the covered passages.
Yes.
There's a bunch of them, and this is the opera area, okay? You have a bunch of them. What I like to do is I like to start at à la Mère de Famille. It's a candy store, so of course I'd go there. It's on 35 Rue du Faubourg Montmartre. And then from there, you go into Passage Verdot, then Passage Jouffroy, and Passage des Panoramas. They're kind of all lined up.
They're very close to one another.
Very close to one another. You exit one and you look around and across the street, here's the entrance to the next one, and so forth. It's like une enfilade.
Didn't we do a podcast about them?
We did.
Ages ago.
We did.
This is something that actually is from the beginning of the 19th century. Mm-hmm. It's really 200. They're 200 years old.
Right.
And they're charming. And they're like a discovery when you go into them, because some of them have restaurants, some of them have chic little shops, some of them, but they all have the original design, the original architecture, and they're just lovely.
They're lovely, yeah. And they go all out at Christmas time. They are very well decorated. Now, the one that everybody, and there's a bunch of these passages, I only mention a few, but there's many more. The one that a lot of American tourists seem to like a lot is le Village Royal. So Passage Royal is very small. It is right by La Madeleine Church. And most of the year they have the umbrellas. They have the upside down umbrellas display, a bunch of umbrellas. At Christmas time, they have this big, this year they had this big thing that looks like a teddy bear, but it's made of greenery. And they have Christmas decorations in there. Anyway, it's teeny. I don't know what the big deal is. I didn't recognize any of the stores. And that day, my sister wasn't there to inform me of why I should be enamored of this place. Yeah, so it's possible that I totally missed the significance of this Passage Royal or whatever it's called, because it's teeny to me. I was like, oh, this is underwhelming. But anyway, so.
But they're very charming and they're a surprise.
Yeah, and La Madeleine Church is famous for it's used a lot for concerts. And so if you go in any time of year, there might be a rehearsal going on.
Right.
So there was one, they were doing Handel's Messiah. They were rehearsing Handel's Messiah when we went. It was very nice. One last place that's interesting for shopping around Paris, but hardly the only one, is Rue Mouffetard. If you go between Place de la Contrescarpe and Saint-Médard, the Saint-Médard Church, and then on to Place Monge, which is all lined up.
Right.
You run into a lot of little things, food things mostly, right?
Mostly.
Yeah.
A little bit of clothing, but mostly food things.
Right.
They have like a cheese place and lots of very nice specialty places like that.
Right. And they have an excellent, really inexpensive sushi place called Oi Sushi. O-I Sushi. This is the cheapest sushi I've ever had, and it was delicious. We were surrounded by young people. I was probably the oldest person there, and I'm only 56. But
it's a university area.
It was mobbed with students, and you can have great sushi for two for like 35 euros. It's stunning. In my little village, it's a lot more expensive than that. Anyway, so those are the shopping areas. There are many, many more.
Right.
Many more. So I didn't mean this to be exhaustive, just to give you a few suggestions. There are also, of course,
lots of small boutiques in the Marais area.
Of course, the Marais area, the Saint-Germain-des-Prés area. Right. I mean, everywhere. These were just a few that stood out to me when I was writing this down. Okay, then let's talk about Christmas markets.
Okay.
This is something that changes from year to year, obviously. For example, the one that got famous on des Champs-Élysées is no longer there.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, because the guy who was putting it on, Marcel Campon, is in a feud with the Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, and as soon as she got elected, she decided he doesn't get a permit to do that anymore, and he's a bit of a bore. So I'm not surprised that she decided to do that.
But it is a shame.
But it was nice.
It was nice. It was chalets all the way up the Champs-Élysées.
Right. And so originally she said that they would do something nicer going forward. But then the pandemic happened. And it might happen again. I mean, not the pandemic, but the Christmas market on the Champs-Élysées. Because it's a nice place to have it.
Yeah.
But she just didn't want him to get to do it. So But it got interrupted with the pandemic, and hopefully they'll get back to it sooner or later. There is a smaller version of that Campon Christmas market in the Tuileries garden, right up against Rue de Rivoli, but inside the Tuileries garden. It's much smaller. But it has similar things, the vin chaud, the Christmas foods, the trinkets, the decorations, the things like that. So there's that one. But there are Christmas markets all over Paris. Another one that I remember seeing is the one they call it the Notre Dame Christmas Market, but it's by Shakespeare and Company. There's a little park there.
That tiny little what we would call a pocket park.
Yeah, a very small park that has a lovely small Christmas market. There's one right around the Saint-Germain-des-Prés church.
Yes.
That's very nice.
That's very nice.
There's a bigger one at La Défense. Now, generally speaking, I don't tell people to go to La Défense because it's a business area. But if you want a bigger Christmas market...
It's on the big esplanade.
It's on the big esplanade. It's easy to get to. You get to the metro. It's very easy to get to. And why not? It's a good reason to go to La Défense. Going up the Arche de la Défense, whatever, nah. I did it once. I'm good.
I've never even done it.
Yeah. I'm not sure you can even do it anymore.
Maybe not for security purposes.
Yeah.
But, it's a huge business area, and of course it's all concrete everywhere you go, but it certainly has a big esplanade that's good for markets and things like that.
Yeah. So there's also a Christmas market on the Trocadero near the Eiffel Tower.
It's down, when you go to the Trocadero and you go down the steps, there's a very long wading pool with grass, and that's where the chalets are.
Right. But honestly, I will put a list on the website, on the show notes for this episode. And of course, this is only good. Next year things might change. Okay, we're talking 2021.
Right.
Next year things might change, but they have stuff like they have an Alsacien Christmas market at Gare de l'Est.
Which goes to Alsace.
Right? They have one, Le Pic Abbesse in Montmartre. There's a Christmas market. There is one, Boulogne-Billancourt has a Christmas market. Rue de la Fontaine, there's one. There's one in Village de Noël à Vincennes.
Yeah.
There's even one. There's one called Je consomme noir. So this is black producers, black people who make things, who sell it
in the
market.
area that has a lot of African people.
I guess c'est à Saint-Ouen. Yes, c'est à Saint-Ouen. Yeah. That makes sense. They have one. There was one that was. Let's see.
I think there's one in the village that's in the 12th. That's right near the museum of the circus. They have these...
Bercy?
Yeah, it's Bercy, yes. It's Village Bercy.
Yeah.
And it's very cute because they've sort of made this into this like an old village type thing. And at Christmas time, they put out little stands with, crafts and things like that.
They have a Village de Noël japonais.
Ah,
Japanese
That's
Christmas village. Who knew? They have a Village de Noël écoféministe.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm telling you, there's a bunch of them. There's one in the 18th. Anyway, everywhere. Okay, everywhere. So I can't list them all. And some of them only pop up on weekends. Mm-hmm. So they'll be like two weekends before Christmas, and then they're gone. Some of them last longer. So I don't think. I think what you should do is just, if you're at Christmas time if you're in Paris around Christmas time, just walk around, you'll find them. Like, you can't plan on them. Like, you can't. This is something that people who listen to us will find aggravating, but because I know you're planners. But don't, like, you can't schedule these things because they might happen, they might not happen. They might be gone by the time you get there. So just roll with it. Like, walk around Paris and you'll find them. They're everywhere,
markets. The fact is, most French people who obviously do a lot of shopping for Christmas, they don't do most of their shopping in these little markets. They do them in the stores.
Yeah.
They do them in the big stores. They do them in the small stores. They do them in the specialty food shops,
Yeah, you go to the Christmas market to have a vin chaud and eat some outrageously fatty potato food.
Or a waffle. Or
waffles or something. That's why I go to the Christmas markets. I can't ever find gifts there.
Sometimes you get places. I've had a few times, actually the one that no longer exists, the one that was on the Champs-Elysees, where I found a nice pair of gloves or a really nice scarf, things like that.
Or Christmas decorations. But they're everywhere, so, you know. Yeah. And then Christmas lights. Okay, Christmas lights are everywhere in Paris. The whole town is decorated, but you will see some particularly beautiful ones. The one that they make a big deal out of, like they invite the press for the lighting of the Champs-Élysées. They invite the press for the lighting of the Christmas tree at Galerie Lafayette Haussmann.
And the beautiful decorations around City Hall.
City Hall is well decorated.
Just beautiful.
Everywhere. Like La Samaritaine, it was already all decked out in Christmas stuff. That was an interesting visit for me. Because again, not being a fashionista, some of this stuff, but it's a lovely area. When we went early in the morning, so a lot of the food stuff was not open yet. But that's what my sister wanted to get there was a Veuve Clicquot champagne. They sell it inside of a case. It's a special case, and you can personalize the case. So you can have your name, or you can write Paris or whatever you want. You can get them to print a sticker for this personalized case
as a gift.
As a gift, yeah, it's a gift, and it's 55 euros. So a bottle of Veuve Clicquot is normally about 35, but you pay 20 more for the case and the custom. It's a good gift, so there are things like that everywhere, all over Paris. Like it's really not that hard to find. Okay. The other thing that makes Christmas is Christmas Mass, of course.
Christmas Mass.
Now, for Christmas Mass, you have to be there on the 24th or the 25th. They're not going to do it any other days.
Exactly.
Right. And Christmas Mass is, they are everywhere. All the parish churches.
All the churches
will have something.
Right.
So obviously, I'm not going to list them all. But the big ones, normally Notre Dame is where the Archbishop celebrates Mass at Christmas. But for obvious reasons, Notre Dame is not open right now.
No.
So instead, the Archbishop will probably go to Saint-Sulpice.
Which I still find strange that he's not going to Saint-Eustache.
So he could also go to Saint-Eustache. So I called both churches to ask them if the Archbishop would come. And neither of them could tell me for sure. The guy at Saint-Eustache says it's been a long time since the Archbishop celebrated Mass, Christmas Mass at Saint-Eustache. But he could come. It's just... they don't announce things. They don't, and of course, because there's a pandemic too, they can't announce, because usually, like Saint-Eustache, they have all sorts, they have a Christmas Mass, la messe de Noël des chasseurs. So all the hunters come and they dress up like in their hunting things, and they have horns, hunting horns. It's like a themed thing. And he was like, "It's gorgeous. We love doing it, but we're not sure we can do it this year
because of the COVID.
Because of the pandemic." So they have a lot of these bigger churches. They have a special Christmas Mass for children, where they do things that are more appealing to children. It doesn't mean that only children can go, but it means that they hope that parents and grandparents will come with their young ones.
For those people who may not really understand, Saint-Eustache is a very big, very old, flamboyant Gothic church that's near Les Halles, and so it's not. It's in the second arrondissement. It's very close to the center. It's not really. You can actually get there from walking around Ile de la Cité, which is where, of course, Notre Dame is. And it's not a church that most people visit as a tourist attraction, unlike some other churches.
Right.
But it's actually quite impressive.
It is impressive.
It's really quite impressive.
It's a bit dark in there.
It's very dark, yeah.
But it's a nice church, and it's a good church in the sense that they actually help the poor. They have programs to help the poor and whatever. So I think it's a lovely place, but probably the Archbishop is going to be in Saint-Sulpice at least for the Grand Mass on the 25th. Who knows where he's going to go for the 24th?
And Saint-Sulpice is in the 6th arrondissement.
Right, so it's
very
posh.
close to Saint-Germain.
Right,
very posh.
So Saint-Sulpice is the rich area.
Yes.
Saint-Eustache not near as rich. So the Archbishop does his business the way he wants. And another, there's a bunch of minor... La Madeleine is also a massive church.
Right.
La Madeleine is more of a church where they do concerts.
Right.
Okay, so they have a concert this year, 23rd of December. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But so La Madeleine is a big church. There's room for a lot of people.
Right.
But all of these big services on Christmas Day, typically Christmas Eve, they will do one around 7 p.m.
And then midnight.
And then 11 or midnight,
Right.
it depends. And then on Christmas Day, they will do one at 11 p.m. Or maybe noon, and probably around 7 or 8 p.m. again. So these are the normal times
Right.
for Mass. But if you want to attend, especially considering that they are very full, you might want to hang out around the area early. To just,
Definitely. And they might be restricting the number of people.
Yeah, they probably will with COVID. They
Right.
probably will. So it's a bit of but all churches, like smaller churches, they're still big, but like Saint-Germain-des-Prés is plenty big, but not near as big as Saint-Sulpice. And so they will have Christmas Mass. So will Saint-Étienne-du-Mont. All parishes will have something or other. So if you're in Paris at that time and this is something that's important to you, walk by the church, see what the posters that they have where they will tell you exactly. But they're not going to advertise, start talking about this even in November.
No.
Like I called them and they couldn't tell me exactly precisely. So don't ask for this sort of thing to be announced 6 months in advance. They don't do that. They just don't do that. Okay, so tell us about Christmas music.
Well, there are a few places, particularly in the Latin Quarter and the 5th arrondissement, that have wonderful concerts at Christmas time. And there's this one church that I particularly love. It's right in the heart. You know the part of the old Latin Quarter where there are all the restaurants, where there's narrow little streets that's very much right behind the Seine, where you walk around everybody. It's like the heart of the touristy part. Well, right dead in the middle of it is this absolutely magnificent flamboyant Gothic church called Saint-Séverin.
Saint-Séverin, yeah.
Saint-Séverin. And it's actually a church from the 1200s. It's really gorgeous inside. It's got a part of the cloister that still exists. And they have concerts on Christmas Day Eve.
So 24th.
So Christmas Day Eve. That is on the 25th. Then on the night of Christmas Day.
I see what you mean.
Night of Christmas Day. And I've been to it. And it's really lovely. There's a wonderful acoustic inside the church. It's also that it's one of these old churches, with all these magnificent arches sort of flying out all over the place inside. So it happens that I checked on it yesterday, and this year it will indeed be again on the night of the 25th at 8:45.
Okay.
And they also do one on New Year's Eve at 8:30. Okay.
And these are paying concerts.
These are paying concerts, right. Although I'm not sure how much because if I remember correctly, I may be wrong. I went with my husband a couple of times, but a couple of different years. And so I have this vague memory that once it was not paying at all, and that once it was paying, but it wasn't very expensive. But I am sure that they will limit the number of people.
Sure.
So the thing to do is, if you are in the Latin Quarter, and it's really the atmosphere there is absolutely gorgeous, just because of the aura of this old church.
It's a nice church.
You need to find out ahead of time, first of all, if it is in fact you have to pay. And
right, because then you have to buy tickets in advance. In advance, probably.
Absolutely in advance. And not very far away, you mentioned the little pocket park where there's the Christmas market, which is right next to this very small, very, very, very old church called Saint-Julien-le-Pauvre, which is right behind the Shakespeare bookstore and across from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's a church that's actually from the year 1160. And it's strange because it's now a Greek Byzantine ritual church, but it's famous for its concerts as well.
Yeah. And it's closed a lot of the time. You can't walk in to visit it.
No. Yeah. It's open at concert time.
Yeah.
It's open at concert time. And on the 25th, there will be a concert at 5:00. And they have piano concerts there all the time. So you can look up the schedule to see, because sometimes it's liturgical music, like it will be on the 25th, and sometimes it's just classical music. It's not very big. It's very beautiful inside. It's very different because it's got a lot of that Byzantine kind of stuff, like a little bit of gold and things like that on the inside. It's an ancient church. And it's one of those that has music pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Madeleine is huge and has music all the time.
Yeah.
Sainte-Chapelle has music all the time, but doesn't have anything specific related to Noel exactly, to Christmas exactly,
Right.
And
Right, it's 4 seasons.
it's 4 seasons,
All the time.
It's like it's become addicted to Vivaldi, they just, I don't know what the thing about them is that they do Vivaldi all the time. I don't know.
It's easy.
And Saint-Étienne-du-Mont, which is a church I know you love, they also have concerts, and they will have a concert on the evening of Christmas Day as well. So those are the ones that I checked out that are in the 5th, because it's the area that I know. I used to walk around in all the time.
Right. So what you should do if you're going to be in Paris for Christmas is look wherever you happen to stay. Look where the local parish churches are, and look up their websites and see if they have announced the times of Mass for the 24th and 25th, and also concerts.
And concerts.
Right? It's really hard to plan on these things very long in advance, because this year anyway, choirs haven't really started practicing again because of COVID. Some choirs, my husband is involved in choirs. One of the choir directors that he's been involved with refuses to be vaccinated. He actually goes and protests all the time, whatever. And so his choirs are dead. Like he can't do anything. And this is a major choir in Toulouse. Let
me just add, because I just forgot to mention it. It's the Church of Saint-Germain-des-Prés. Also has concerts on Christmas Eve and the night of Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely place for a concert.
Right.
As well.
So these are busy churches with a lot happening. Check their websites. Don't check them 6 months in advance. I called. They couldn't even tell me, like 6 weeks in advance. They couldn't tell me. So just wait, cool your jets, wait, and check 2 weeks before, and then probably it will be announced.
Well, I think these were announced for this year, but I think they're contingent on everything being okay.
Right.
Basically.
And also these are churches where they do these concerts year in and year out.
And because it's in the heart of the tourist area, they do want to publicize this, I think. Now that we're in the middle of November, they really want people to get an idea of this is possible.
Well, but Saint-Sulpice, the guy didn't have any idea.
He didn't have any idea.
Their website doesn't have anything.
That's interesting.
It's huge.
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
The guy who answers the phone doesn't know. He's like, we don't know yet. That's too early. Call back in a month. I was like, okay.
Interesting.
Whatever. Okay, there are also people who might want to go to a museum, or maybe the weather is foul on Christmas Day and you need somewhere indoors.
and since some of the shops are not open on Christmas Day, it is actually a nice time to go to some of these places.
Right. Yeah. So here are the ones that are open on Christmas Day. The Paris Aquarium is open on Christmas Day. The Eiffel Tower is open every day of the year. Never closes.
Never
well,
closes.
It did close for the pandemic, but otherwise it doesn't. The Parc Zoologique de Paris is also open every day, including Christmas Day.
Right.
Le Jardin d'Acclimatation, which is at Bois de Boulogne, is open on Christmas Day. The Sacré-Cœur, obviously. So Montmartre, there's a bunch. Actually, Montmartre would be a good thing to do on Christmas Day, because you have the Sacré-Cœur, which is open, which will probably have nice music and so forth.
Right.
Mass, probably. I would bet that they would have a nice big Christmas Mass, and it's a big church, which can accommodate a lot of people.
You have the Espace Dali.
L'Espace Dali is open on Montmartre, and so is the Musée de Montmartre.
Yes.
So there's 3 things you can do at Montmartre, and if you just add a restaurant, open on Christmas.
And I bet
in
there
the
have got to be
evening
a couple of them
and
open
some at
there.
lunch. Yeah, there's got to be some.
There's just got
to be.
Right.
So if Montmartre will be a good place to go on Christmas
Even
Day.
with the atmosphere there.
Yeah, it'd be different. It'd be good. Le Domaine de Saint-Cloud, but that's not in Paris. That's out of Paris a little bit. La Tour Montparnasse is open every day of the year. La Grande Arche de la Défense apparently has la patinoire. They have an ice rink that's
Really?
open on Christmas
Like the one
Day.
in front of City Hall.
Like the one in front of City Hall. And that's between 10 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Christmas Day. You have a beautiful view on Paris. It's on the roof, apparently, so that's nice.
We have the Institut du Monde Arabe, which is really, really a fascinating museum. I have seen wonderful exhibits there. It's very close to the Jardin des Plantes.
Yep.
And you have a wonderful tea house restaurant up above on a terrace there. And it is a lovely place. It has a great bookstore as well.
Right. And le Musée d'Art et d'Histoire du Judaïsme is also open on Christmas
which is a very nice
Day.
museum.
Right, very nice museum. L'Atelier des Lumières, they have a Klimt exhibit right now. L'Atelier des Lumières is not far from Père Lachaise. And that's open on Christmas Day. Père Lachaise is open on Christmas Day. I even checked.
And so that would mean that Montmartre Cemetery is too. And there are
Probably.
lots of very famous people there, including Émile Zola. I just saw a program about him. It's fascinating.
Right, but I mean, on Christmas Day, going to a
I don't
cemetery,
know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Go to Mass and then go to
To
the
each their
cemetery.
own.
Whatever.
To each their own. Le Musée Grévin is open on Christmas Day. That's the Wax Museum.
Wax Museum.
Musée de Montmartre, we already mentioned.
The Musée Mayol, which is
Mayol,
a
yes.
wonderful small museum in the 7th arrondissement that has lovely, wonderful small art exhibits. Really beautiful little museum.
Yep. Jacquemart-André is open on Christmas
Wonderful,
Day.
gorgeous. It's a private mansion in the 16th that also has great exhibits.
Right. Caravage à Rome this year. Caravaggio exhibit.
They have
this
treasures
year.
there. They have absolute
One that's
treasures there.
surprising to me is Centro Pompidou.
Yes,
is
indeed.
open.
It's open
on Christmas Day. That's if you want to spend your day in Le Marais.
And it's open from 11 to 10 at night, 11 in the morning to 10. Well, it always opens late.
Right.
It's the museum that opens late and stays open late. And it has, of course, photography, design, the major collection.
Beautiful view on
Beautiful view,
Paris.
Cafe. I mean, yeah. So
Yeah.
there are choices.
Lots of things to do in Paris on Christmas Day as well.
as well.
The last thing we want to talk about is meals. Food in Paris around Christmas time. Well, Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, 24th, 25th. Okay, I made a lot of calls this week, and I have found something interesting. So if you go to individual websites for restaurants, most of them don't let you book any sooner than a month before. Okay? That's because if you book too long in advance, you will change your mind. You will forget about it. It'll be a no-show. So they have no desire to have people book 6 months in advance. That's the first thing. Second thing is, a lot of these individual restaurants they find it difficult to manage reservations coming from different directions. So they have people who call. They have people who book on places like La Fourchette or TripAdvisor. I think you can also book through TripAdvisor. And they have their own website. And they find it difficult to manage these bookings coming from all directions. Some of them will just shut off their website reservations completely and just do via La Fourchette. Some of them will stop doing it via La Fourchette, but they will only do it via their own website. Some of them will not take any reservations unless you call. Okay, so it's really hard to give you a for sure. It just depends on the restaurant, okay? But generally speaking, you can find on La Fourchette, La Fourchette, which is the fork. It's the same
fork.
app, okay? It's the same app. It works. It's just in French. They call it La Fourchette. They will show dates. And right now you can see dates for the 25th and 24th and 25th, but only in the evening. And I wondered, I wonder if that's specific to the fork or if it's real. So I called a few places and they said, well, we are open. We do a special meal for Christmas Eve and a special meal for Christmas Day evening. Almost nobody is open on Christmas Day at lunch. That's because they want to spend Christmas morning with their family, which makes all sorts of sense.
Right.
So they will put on a special meal on the 24th in the evening and on the 25th in the evening. Those are fairly easy to find if you go to on the fork. 25th at lunchtime is very difficult to find. So you would have to call, for instance, a Moroccan restaurant or Tunisian restaurant. The ethnic restaurants where they're not Christian, where all of the staff is not Christian. So these are not, I mean, they would like to have Christmas off because it's a big day in France, but maybe they'll work anyway. Okay. So if you need a meal for lunch, you will have to do either Chinese or Moroccan or something of that
like
sort.
Right.
And, you know, just look for the ones near your hotel and see what you would like to do. I recommend you call them because, you know, you don't want to show up to a closed door on Christmas Day.
Right. No, I know because I've had this experience with my husband years ago, but there's this tiny little, very nice little Tunisian place right near the Cluny Museum, and that's open on the 25th.
Right.
Yeah. So some of them are. Some of them I think aren't, but again, the best thing is to call.
Oh, and yesterday I learned from somebody that I did an itinerary review with. She taught me something. She told me about this restaurant called Au Pied du Cochon. It's in Les Halles. It's very close to Saint-Eustache, and it's open all of the time.
Oh, really?
They never close.
They never close.
At all. So, on Christmas lunch, you could go there. You might not be the only person there, but yeah. So they never close.
What about the brasseries, the big brasseries?
No, they close at lunch.
They do close
Christmas
at
Day lunch.
Huh.
Closed. It's Christmas, you know. They don't want to. I'm sure not all of them,
right?
But they do a special menu. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, you can't have their normal menu items. They put on a special menu that will cost minimum 100 euros per person.
Oh wow!
It's minimum. You know, yeah. There's 200, 250 is common, and you have to book in advance. They need to know how many people because they're going to be serving, you know, foie gras, lobster. They'll throw all these expensive food items at you, and they can't just have an unlimited supply of those.
Right.
So they need prior reservations. So if you're going to be at Christmas in Paris for Christmas, make sure you plan for at least your Christmas Eve dinner and your Christmas Day evening dinner.
Right.
For lunch, maybe, you know, play it by ear. Yeah. Depending on which neighborhood you stay in, there are for sure a few ethnic places that will be open.
Right.
But it depends on where you're staying exactly. So I would say that Christmas time in Paris is absolutely lovely. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot we did not mention in this episode that's also worth it. But we only have an hour, and we've been talking for almost an hour.
We have, and I just wanted to say that besides all these very specific things, Paris at Christmas time is just lovely to walk around.
Yeah.
You walk down the Seine. It's cold usually. It's a little bit gray. It's not, you know, it's not the sunniest time of the year in Paris, but it doesn't make any difference. And there are lovely little stalls along the Seine River, and there are usually lights along the Seine River at various places. The bridges are all lighted up and everything. And just walking around and falling upon something by chance, you know, not always planning everything out to the last second. It's one of the nicest things you can do at Christmas time in Paris.
Exactly. And along the Seine, the bouquinistes are open. You know, and
if they're in the central part where it's like right there in the 5th and 6th, right there.
Along there, you'll find them. Not all of them are open all the time.
No.
Like this time, maybe 1 out of 3 was open, but some are open, some are not. They'll pop open, close, whatever. You know, it's just, you just have to play it by ear. And if you go in that area, which if you do my walking tours, you will, then you'll see them. They're just right there for you to enjoy. Thank you, Elyse. You have survived an episode with a cold.
I have survived an episode with a cold.
And you don't sound so stuffed up, actually. You hide it well. You do a good job.
Gosh, thank you so much.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
have to book in advance. They need to know how many people, because they're going to be serving, foie gras, lobster. They'll throw all these expensive food items at you, and they can't just have an unlimited supply of those.
Right.
So they need prior reservations. So if you're going to be at Christmas, in Paris for Christmas, make sure you plan for at least your Christmas Eve dinner and your Christmas Day evening dinner.
Right.
For lunch, maybe, play it by ear. Yeah. Depending on which neighborhood you stay in, there are for sure a few ethnic places that will be open.
Right.
But it depends on where you're staying exactly. So I would say that Christmas time in Paris is absolutely lovely. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot we did not mention in this episode that's also worth it. But we only have an hour, and we've been talking for almost an hour.
We have, and I just wanted to say that besides all these very specific things, Paris at Christmas time is just lovely to walk around.
Yeah.
You walk down the Seine. It's cold usually. It's a little bit gray. It's not, it's not the sunniest time of the year in Paris, but it doesn't make any difference. And there are lovely little stalls along the Seine River, and there are usually lights along the Seine River at various places. The bridges are all lighted up and everything. And just walking around and falling upon something by chance, not always planning everything out to the last second. It's one of the nicest things you can do at Christmas time in Paris.
Exactly. And along the Seine, the bouquinistes are open. And
if they're in the central part where it's like right there in the 5th and 6th, right there.
Along there, you'll find them. Not all of them are open all the time.
No.
Like this time, maybe 1 out of 3 was open, but some are open, some are not. They'll pop open, close, whatever. It's just, you just have to play it by ear. And if you go in that area, which if you do my walking tours, you will, then you'll see them. They're just right there for you to enjoy. Thank you, Elyse. You have survived an episode with a cold.
I have survived an episode
and
with a cold.
And you don't sound so stuffed up, actually. You hide it well. You do a good job.
Gosh, thank you so much.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Again, I want to thank my patrons for supporting the show and giving back. Patrons get exclusive rewards for doing that. You can see them at patreon.com/join us. Patreon. Join us, no spaces or dashes. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Some of you have been at this for a long time now. You're wonderful. And a shout out this week to new patron Sin Russell. Thank you so much for becoming a new patron and making this podcast possible. I'm recording this episode early. That's why there's just one new patron. But I would love it. It would feel a lot like Christmas to me if I had lots of new patrons to thank when I start producing episodes in the new year. I'm not that good at asking for support. It's the truth. But I do think that the show is really informative and quite fun. So I hope you make a New Year resolution that you too can support this podcast, especially if it's one that you look forward to every week. My thanks also to Randall McNair for sending in a one-time donation by using the green button on any page on joinusinfrance.com that says tip your guide. Okay, the French expression of the week. Il me court sur le haricot. No, he's not running on my bean. I do not have a bean. But what he's doing is getting on my nerves. And of course, this could also be elle me court sur le haricot. Just don't say that about me, okay? This week in French news, the fifth wave in France seems to be flattening out sooner than we dared hope. I think people want to have a nice Christmas with their families, and they are taking precautions. There were almost 1 million shots given yesterday in one day in France. Vaccination centers are full again. The vast majority of those shots were boosters, but every day we get new people going for their first or second dose as well, and that's wonderful. There is a group of people who will never get vaccinated no matter what. I'm guessing that's maybe 5% of the population. That's just a guess, but it seems to make sense. My husband used to sing in a choir with a very talented conductor. We're friends socially, not close friends or anything, but we've been to their house, they've been to ours, kind of thing. Well, this man is never starting his choir again because you need a pass sanitaire for associations and gatherings of choirs and things like that. He's close to retirement, but he's talking about selling his house near the center of Toulouse, and there are not a lot of single residence houses in the center of any city in France. This one he's got something nice, and he wants to move to the boonies where he won't have to see other people. I didn't know he was like that until this pandemic started. And this mostly because he really hates Macron. He doesn't want to get the vaccine, and he thinks the pass sanitaire is the stuff of a totalitarian regime. Any of you who've been to France since the pass sanitaire was put in place can attest that it's no big deal. Someone at the restaurant may or may not ask to see your QR code. He will flash it on their own phone or on a standalone machine. And they are asking for the QR codes more and more. And they are asking for the QR code more and more, but it only takes 10 seconds. The software only saves the info until the end of the day, and then it's erased. There's no data mining. Okay, then. I'm glad it's not my job to try to enlighten these people that there is no... This is not totalitarianism. This is just a simple public health precaution. But the problem we have, and this is not a big surprise, is kids, because nobody under 12 in France is vaccinated yet. They've given the go-ahead. They've ordered doses for kids because the dosage is different, but the rollout hasn't started yet. So school-aged kids are getting infected. They don't get very sick, but they pass it on to all their younger siblings, plus adults, plus seniors around them. And that's a big problem. And the only way I can think to deal with this is to get all people at risk, all adults really, vaccinated as often as it takes until this pandemic dies out. I do think they die out eventually. I hope. Anyway, there's a fifth wave in France, but we're not dropping like flies. And I still think if you have booked a trip to France, you should do it. But it would be smart holding off on booking new trips to anywhere right now. That's just my opinion. Show notes for this episode are on joinusinfrance.com/368, where you can see a recap of what we've discussed, the list of places to have a wonderful Christmas in Paris. If you enjoy the show, introduce a friend to the podcast and tell them why you listen and how maybe. And you can find them anywhere there are podcasts. Just search for Join Us in France. Next week on the podcast, an episode about the lovely city of Périgueux in the Périgord. Périgueux in the Périgord. Say that 10 times fast. It'll be with Elyse. I was just in Périgueux, loved it, and I think you will too. There will be no COVID update next week because I'm pre-scheduling as much as I can before I take off for the US myself. It's been 3 years since I was in the US. That's a long, long time. I miss it, and I miss seeing family. So I'm really looking forward to it. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope you enjoy your family and friends and have a peaceful time wherever you are. Send questions or feedback to Annie@joinusinfrance.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir.